There we go. That should fix that problem. So what I was saying, which I guess we have to start all over because people are coming in and the sound wasn't working. Look at that. I didn't look at the chat. There we go. Can y'all hear me now before we go further on this? Again, new things. We're trying new things out over here. This is not something that as a social media creator, I usually do. So let me know with a thumbs up if y'all can hear it better. I'll look at TikTok in the meantime. Okay, they can hear. Okay, so now I am live on YouTube with sound. So what I was saying, so if anybody who wants to watch on YouTube, you can. I'm not monitoring. This is just here for those of y'all who want to listen here and not really swap over. Okay, so starting this over is basically what I was saying is I made a video a short while ago, and we'll include Australia in this now too because Max is here, talking about how apparently Hamas has called on tomorrow, Friday the 13th, to be a day of jihad. There's a lot of mixed feelings in that videos. People saying that it's fake. People saying that it's Islamophobic, which it's not. We don't support Islamophobia around here. Please note that people of Islam, the Nation of Islam, people who celebrate, or who practice the Muslims practice the religion of Islam, are not inherently violent people. There are sects and groups of people who claim to do these terrorist acts in the name of Islam. It doesn't mean that it's the truth. Again, Mindy, we are not doing Islamophobia here. To group a bunch of people together in a single thought is not something that we do. It's bigoted and it's ignorant. Not everybody who supports the way. I know plenty of people. I have plenty of friends who are Muslim, who are not violent people at all in any way. That being said, too, I think it's very important to note that the people of Palestine are not Hamas. Hamas is not reflective of the views of the people of Palestine. So basically what they're saying is that tomorrow will be a day of jihad. America specifically is being targeted. I believe Aaron Parnas reported they wanted to give a blow to America. That would be because the large warship that we're sending over, as well as our support, financial, military, etc. Plus, we've always been, a friend to Israel. But that's not going to, be only the U.S. There's a lot of people in Europe, in the UK. There's a lot of people in Canada that could all be affected by this. The issue when you're dealing with a terrorist group, which is what Hamas is that you don't know who they are. They don't wear uniforms to tell you, hey, we're part of the problem. And so they go out and do whatever they're going to do. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that something terrible is going to happen. It doesn't mean that it's not going to happen. We don't know. All we know is that they have said that this could happen tomorrow. Somebody said in the comments on TikTok earlier that they don't warn us. That's not entirely true. They do warn us. They say something's going to happen, but they leave it to us to try to figure out what that might be. On top of that, it's not like the people who are part of these militant groups, have some type of secret chat that they do. They communicate, the same way the rest of us do. And sometimes spreading things via the media is really the fastest way, especially for people who would be closely watching this type of activity, such as people who affiliate themselves with Hamas. So that's a very good point. Somebody just commented and said a terrorist group with possible state secrets at their disposal. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's, we don't know what they know about what. And, they are coming out of Palestine and could be using some of that. We don't know what they know about Israel because, they could have, again, they don't wear uniforms. You don't know who the good guys and the bad guys are when it comes to stuff like this. For everybody who is watching here, if you want to, you are welcome to head over to YouTube. If you are so inclined, that's where I'm talking. The chat's a bit slower there, and I would actually see your comments there because we're just kind of doing this for y'all to listen. The other thing that's come out and been said is that apparently some of the atrocities that they plan to commit, as far as the murder and killings of people, torture, etc., supposedly they're going to push that out to social media, meaning Instagram, YouTube, X, what else? TikTok, obviously. All of the big ones that we have here. I'm sure I missed one there. I know I did. Nevertheless, it's been advised to keep your children off social media because you cannot unsee those types of things. One thing I did say earlier in a video that I think needs to be corrected because I didn't realize as of yesterday and even earlier this morning, um, it had been said by the United States that there had been the beheadings of babies that had been seen. Now, the Israeli government, this was walked back about 11 hours ago. I didn't see that that had been walked back, but it had been walked back 11 hours ago, not to say that it didn't happen, just to say that the Israeli government had not confirmed it and that there is no confirmation, but also there's no confirmation that it didn't happen either. So I guess we have to wait and see on that. Another thing that I kind of want to talk about too is Ukraine. Somebody made the comment like, well, this is all basically, this is all the big plan. All the conspiracy theorists come out. This is the big plan. Y'all, Ukraine is still in the news. It's being overpowered a little bit by what's going on now. This is obviously Ukraine and Russia's been going on for about a year now, close to, if not over that. Whereas this is a brand new situation that is arising with one of our biggest allies. We're lending different types of support. That means it will probably also pull support from Ukraine, which is a different conversation for a different day. Now, I do want to. My wife and I were talking about another creator who is on TikTok. He may be on YouTube. I don't know. He goes by the True Adventures verified account. His name is Gidon Lev, and it's Gidon and his partner is Julie. And I'm mutuals with them. I'm friends with them, and I really like them. Gidon is 80-something years old, I think 86 or 87, and is a Holocaust survivor. Okay, he literally survived the concentration camps. I know it's all white on TikTok, Stephanie. That's why I put it on here so you can see the background and everything here. He survived the Holocaust, and after the war, a few years after the war, I think in the 50s, he moved to Israel. He lives about 40 miles away from where all of this is happening. His sons have been called up for duty. He's terrified. He's worried. But you got to. I'm thinking about this man, and my wife and I are talking about him. This is a man that literally survived the Holocaust, survived concentration camps. And definitely give him a follow, by the way. And now he's having to go and live through this. It's almost, to a degree like history repeating itself, because this is based, these attacks are based on, large of religion and largely on land. So that being said, if you're in here or if you're on TikTok and you want to ask questions, please jump over to YouTube and I'll be happy to answer any. But if you'll have any questions or anything that you want to talk about, we'll start bringing that in. But definitely want to make sure that you guys are aware that, be just extra vigilant tomorrow. Here's the thing. It's not living your life in fear. You don't know what's going to happen. Maybe it's nothing. I hope it's nothing. I hope that all of this is that all these videos, all the stuff that we're making, all the stuff that we're talking about ends up being for nothing. That would be the best case scenario, that nothing happens tomorrow. It's like any other day. That's truly the ideal scenario that we could have in this situation. Okay. But you never know. So we're making the decision to keep our daughter home tomorrow just because you don't know. Not that I feel like anything would happen out of school, but if something happened, we want to be, anywhere near. So somebody's asking what we're talking about right now. Would it be safe to send your kids to school tomorrow? I can't tell you that it would or wouldn't be. I think it depends on the school. I think it depends on where you are. I think it depends on the size of the city that you're near. Are you in an area that's had a lot of, Hamas protests? So are we thinking bombing mass? Great questions. Are we thinking bombing, mass murder, or some other warfare? So we are thinking right now. Let me see. I think I can show your question. There we go. I can throw them up on the boards. So anybody who's not watching this on YouTube, y'all are totally missing the awesomeness that is this live on YouTube and the things that we can do here. It could be, you don't know. It could be anything. It could be nothing. I don't think it would be. Typically, the bombing and mass murder kind of go hand in hand. If this is something that's been overall planned and orchestrated, like, for example, 9/11 or the bombing of the World Trade Center before 9/11 that used a suicide bomber with, bomb vests and stuff like that, that could result in mass murder, mass destruction, things that could cripple, so large events. One thing that often works too is you got to think that these groups, they fight dirty. They don't care. There is no thing. There is no rules of engagement when it comes to these individuals. They don't follow Geneva Convention. They don't follow any other rules other than whatever they want to do because they are not a nation. They are a terrorist organization. That is what they are. Um, so what they want to do is affect as many people as they can. That, could that include children? Yeah. Could it include buildings, places of, worship? Could it be just synagogues? Absolutely. It depends on what they're trying to do. Again, it's a guessing game. If they do anything at all, where they might hit, they like to warn us that they're going to do something, but then sometimes nothing happens and sometimes things do happen. After 9/11, there were, I think I forget which anniversary, was it the 10th year or even the 20th? I think recently the 20th anniversary of 9/11, which would have been back in 21. There was threats of violence, and I don't think anything ended up happening that day. So, we don't know. Um, Let me go back. And so y'all asking some questions here. Danielle asks, I haven't been following this story as I've been so busy. Totally understand about that. There's a lot going on with this. How did this all begin? Essentially, it was an unprovoked attack into Israel. I believe it started, I think the first civilian area that was hit, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, was the music festival. And then it's just kind of gotten insane from there. Currently, there are, I believe, 200. I don't know if it's just Palestinians or Israelis or both combined in this number, but as of yesterday, there were 263,000 people displaced. The death tolls were in the thousands of people on both sides, most of which are civilians. A lot of children are missing. A lot of children are dead, elderly. Hamas has taken hostage people, women, children, elderly men, etc. Supposedly there have been killings of them. Originally it was reported as beheadings, but that's been walked back a little bit, saying that that's now unconfirmed. So there's a lot of things kind of going on with it, but that's basically kind of the I don't want to call it the catalyst, but that was kind of the pivotal moment where there was a first on the ground attack. Any parents in the chat choosing to not send their kids to school, y'all are welcome to do that. So talk about that amongst yourself in there. So again, if y'all are in here, please feel free to ask questions. For those of y'all who are watching on TikTok, I'm live on YouTube, which is why I'm not looking at this. This is just monitoring. How do you find me on YouTube? That's a great question people are asking. So the easiest way is my name right here is it's Justin on TikTok, on YouTube as well. You can also access it through the link in my bio if y'all want to do that. But feel free to ask questions here. So as far as keeping your kids out of school, and I definitely want to talk about this because I think a lot of people in the comment section were talking about keeping your kids out of school, and somebody said, I don't want to live my life in fear. And look, I agree. We can't live our lives in fear. We can't do that every single day. I think the decision to let your kids stay home that day is a personal one. Now, my daughter is in preschool. Do I personally think that anything's going to happen at her preschool? Absolutely not. I don't. Not even a little bit. There's nothing that would give me that indication or even that fear. I live in the Metro Nashville, Tennessee area, but I'm not in the big city. So, I'm not worried about that, but I don't know what could possibly happen tomorrow, even outside the school, that would make me want to get, closer to her, grab her quicker. So it's really up to the parent on as to what you think. Use your best judgment, right? At the same time, let's address the living in fear thing. I would rather live in, again, this is not scare tactics. This is what the news is saying. Okay. This is not me. This is just me summarizing the news and having a conversation about everything that's going on. So I don't want people to be like, he's doing scare tactics. No scare tactics. It's the reality of the situation that we are in. But I would rather personally be fearful for one day, keep my kid at home if I was in the situation that I felt I needed to do so, than to live in a lifetime of regret in the off chance that something does happen. That's kind of where I stand, my personal opinions. So anyways, that's kind of what we're talking about here. It's really quite crazy, everything that's going on. The conflict in this area has been that way for a long time. And while we're doing this, we're going to go ahead and see what the latest are. There are a lot of updates going on. Let's take a look and see what we can find. I can maybe even pull some up. Hold on. Bear with me, guys, for 1 second here. Here we go. This is from 2 hours ago from USA Today. I'm going to pull this up for you guys so we can take a look at it together. We'll get rid of that. There we go. So this is all the updates. One of them was a couple hours ago had said, where is it? Let's scroll down. These are some of the pictures. You can kind of see what's going on in this area here. So let me just pull back over. Sorry, we're working on dual screens over here. You can kind of see all of this stuff. There are, by the way, there are about 20 U.S. people still missing, and I did hear from it's a reliable, Aaron Parnas is a very reliable source. Well, it actually wasn't Aaron that said this one. It was somebody else, but still reliable. That supposedly SEAL Team 6 is over there to act as which is the same group that, killed Osama bin Laden, is over there offering aid and support, not like kicking down doors, but also helping to try to find the additional apparently 20 or so Americans, I guess, that they're looking for. I haven't really looked deep into that. I just saw that. So this, as of how long ago is this update right here that we're looking at? I think this was a couple hours ago. So the 2,500. Here we go. More than 1,400 people killed in Gaza. The U.S. death toll from the attacks has risen to 27, with 14 remaining missing. That's kind of where you're at on that. Again, for anybody who's watching on TikTok, just to show over, I'm on YouTube primarily. I put this there for anybody who wants to listen and not jump over. If you do want to jump over, my username is Justin on TikTok, and you can on YouTube. It's the same across all channels, basically. And if you go to the link in my bio, you can get to it from there. So anyways, let me go back and find where we were looking at here real quick. So what we were looking at is this called arms. I don't know who that is. I don't trust that as being reputable because I don't know who they are. Here we go. Let's talk about this. And then we'll go back to questions in a second. We don't need to watch an ad. So anyways, here's what we know. Hamas is seeking the destruction of Israel and wants to replace its government with the Islamic State. That's what they want to do. Islamic State, like ISIS, okay? I mean, basically that's what Hamas is. In a video statement by Khalid Mashal, who is a former leader of Hamas, released a video statement earlier this week telling others to deliver a message through the squares and streets, a message of anger that we are with Palestine. Again, these people are not representative of the people of Palestine. I cannot stress that enough. He also mentioned the concept of jihad, and outlets have reported that he urged a global jihad, meaning taking to the streets wherever they are. So to know who this guy is who said that, he was the leader of the political wing of Hamas from 96 to 2017, tasked with building relations with other Sunni Muslim powers such as Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Egypt. Okay. The United States classifies both wings of Hamas as a terrorist organization. Again, you're not dealing with a country. You're not dealing with Palestine or Palestinians. You're dealing with Hamas. Now, Hamas might have people from Palestine, but that's not reflective of the citizens of Palestine. Because I can guarantee you everybody on both sides at the Gaza Strip probably, I feel very confident, don't agree with everything that's happening right now. In 2014, this individual said that Hamas would not cease resisting Israel until its demands were met, saying the weapons of the resistance are sacred and we will not accept that it be up for negotiation, meaning that they are not going to negotiate with Israel. They are going to have it their way or no way, no matter what the cost of that is. Went on to say that there's no politics without resistance, and there is no resistance without arms. Our enemy only comes under pressure when they are under fire. As our rockets hit them, they were forced to hold talks with us. So again, violence to get what they want. So in this week, they're talking about what he said. I call on you, me being included as well, and we are all responsible for this to start with the things we are used to, but with a higher ceiling. First of all, for anger, to head to the squares and streets of the Arabic and Islamic world on Friday, the Friday of Al-Aqsa flood. Sorry, I know I'm saying that wrong. My apologies. Mashal said, deliver a message through the squares and streets, a message of anger that we are with Palestine, that we are with Gaza, with Al-Aqsa, with Jerusalem, and that we are part of this battle. This is first. Second, Gaza is calling for your help with relief and money, with whatever you own, whoever can help. This is the moment of truth. What should we answer? We are facing truth, and here I say clearly, without hesitation, this is the moment for the nation to join in the fight, to fight with them. And then he goes on to call on the surrounding countries: Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, Egypt. So I live in Tennessee, where they say Lebanon instead of Lebanon, so old habits. Um, all of its sons and daughters, officially and popularly, your duty is bigger because you are closer to Palestine. So we'll stop there for the moment. This is kind of what we're talking about here. So I'm going to scroll up and look at any questions here on YouTube. Okay, let's go back up real quick. So I've missed a lot of questions here. So let me scroll back up. We'll get through every single one of them. The nice thing about YouTube, for anybody who, by the way, on TikTok, I'll say it again. If you want to jump onto YouTube, I'm monitoring the questions there. You can see what I'm actually looking at, backgrounds, etc., and I can answer your questions. And I will make sure I'm on here until all questions that you guys have are answered. Okay. I don't know what to do 45 minutes away from a major city. I don't know where you're at, Elizabeth, but just figure that you need to use your best judgment. And if you feel it's safe, then here's the thing. I would hope that tomorrow nothing happens. That's the best case scenario. I thought about not sending it's the same thing. You got to use your best judgment. So I'm going. Bella says, I'm going to put up what you have. You guys can read this while I'm scrolling. Why would they announce? Would they plan to do something? That's what makes no. Okay, I love this question, Elizabeth. Let's answer this. So Elizabeth asks, why would they announce when they plan to do something? That's what makes me think nothing will happen. I think that that's a great point, and I think that's a great question to have. And here's the thing. I'm going to go ahead and stop the screen sharing for a minute. Here's the thing about that. And your question makes sense. But one thing that these terrorist organizations have done in the past is they have alerted us to the fact that they are going to do something. Oftentimes nothing happens. Sometimes things do happen. I can't remember exactly what it was because we're going back 20 something years and I'm on the spot, but well before 9/11 happened, they warned of some type of event happening, and 9/11 happened before. I think it was 94. I could be getting the year wrong. Somebody can correct me. When there was the other bombing at the World Trade Center, similar thing. They warned about things happening, and it did. They just don't tell you where, when, or what always. Now they're saying a win here on this one. And I think that part of it too is that they have to get a message across everywhere, and the media is a great way to do that. They know that the Western media is going to report this stuff, and so anybody who is supporters of this terrorist organization or people who are members of this terrorist organization who are in the U.S., which is very possible. If you remember, between 2001 and even fairly recently, the last 5-10 years, they were still pulling out Al Qaeda members who were been living in the U.S. for a long time. It happens. They're here, because there's no reason to deny them being here because they're not an issue at the time, especially if there's no background or prior histories. Sorry about that. So exactly. We don't. And to answer Haley's question, which is right below that, what's supposed to happen? I'm literally clueless. We don't know. Again, it could be nothing. This is just what the media is warning, is that they are calling on a day of jihad, and that supposedly the U.S. is supposed to be a target mainly because of the fact that we are lending military and financial support as well as general support, as they are one of our closest allies. Are there any updates for the UK? I will have to look, Danielle. If there's anybody else in the UK who knows, please feel free to drop it in the comments. I did hear or see a comment in the TikTok video that I did that apparently the Jewish schools in London are being closed for tomorrow. I don't know if anything else is being closed at that point in time. Stephanie asked, what is the Holocaust survivors TikTok again? So it's the True Adventures. You could type in Gidon, Gidon. And you'll come to Gidon and Julie is typically how it comes up. He's got a blue verified check mark on TikTok. I'm sure he's probably on YouTube as well. He's an amazing man. Again, literally survived a concentration camp, now lives in Israel and is having to experience this. And his sons have been called up for duty. So I know that he is not okay right now. I sent a message to them the other day, just checking on them, and they were like, yep, we're not okay. Somebody asked, would any place in Alabama be a threat? I don't know. I don't know how Alabama is. I mean, you obviously have bigger cities. You have, Birmingham is probably y'all's biggest city. And could something happen there? I don't know. I mean, I guess just listen to your local media. Here's the thing. We have really good intel. We thwart a lot of stuff. So you have FBI in every major city and everything in every state who is monitoring this type of stuff. Communications are going out. You have, the CIA monitoring everything that's going on. I'm quite sure. And I'm not saying let's have total trust in the government. Please, by all means, don't say that. Obviously, do your due diligence, do what you feel is best, but know that we have some of the best intelligence, if not the best intelligence in the world. And so if there is a reason for them to think that something's going to happen in a certain area, I would hope that the local media would warn you guys to stay away from somebody. Somebody said, and I love, okay, Melissa, thank you for bringing this up. I think this is a great talking point. I've meant to talk about this, and my ADD keeps forgetting me. To be honest, it could be a nut taking advantage of the situation. That is another problem. There could be somebody else who is planning on committing some type of horrible event, and they can utilize this, especially because here's the thing. Let's be very real. Let's be very real. Not all, but a lot of mass shooting events are done by people with a lot of bigotry, a lot of white supremacy. Okay. That's not all of them, but that's a large number of them. Okay. A large number of them. So it could be a great opportunity for somebody who might have tanner skin if they wanted to try to make it look like an Islamic person, a Muslim, member of Hamas, whatever you want to say in this situation, did something, whether they did or not. And again, with a lot of these mass shooters, they don't care if they live or die. So that's very possible that somebody could take advantage of the situation. This is definitely a valid concern. Stephanie Jones says there's a map of all places in the U.S. a country or group could attack, but I doubt it would be nuclear. No, I don't think it'd be nuclear. I don't think that's the way they would fight. And I don't think Hamas has the materials to go with a nuclear attack. So Kristen says, I'm going to answer this too, because I am also about that distance from my daughter's school. I'm so torn. I don't know what to do. I'm only like 5 minutes away from my kid's school. I live very close to. If you feel you're in an area, Kristen, that it's fine, then go. Just, again, listen to your local media. That's the best, and listen to your gut. That's the best I can tell you. I can't advise anybody on what to do. The only thing I would say and advise in regard to the things that we're talking about today is, maybe stay away from large crowds tomorrow. It is Friday the 13th in October, so that alone makes it a little bit crazier. It's like I told my wife, we're talking about possibly, going out tonight and doing something. I don't think we're going to do it tonight anyways, but we're talking about like what would better go tonight or tomorrow. So honestly, if I was one of these people who was going to plan an attack, and for those of you who know Nashville, there's an area we have called Broadway. It's very touristy. There's a lot of people there, especially on the weekends. And I'd be like, I'd wait till Friday night, and that's what I would do. So, just stay away from large crowds. If it's an area on a Friday that's typically pretty busy, maybe stay away. Better safe than sorry. That's my things. Okay, I'm scrolling down the list here. Do you think DC would be a huge target, or is it all larger cities? I feel so close. Well, first of all, that's a great question. DC is a large city, and I think that DC for a lot of people is always a target. DC is usually kept pretty safe, though. I mean, even if you go back to 9/11, when that the plane that crashed in the field in Pennsylvania, that plane was headed to DC. They put it in the ground before it could get to the Capitol. Those people obviously were heroes. That was a hard decision to make. And if you've never, that was United 93. If you've never seen that movie or know that story, definitely watch it. Those people's story deserves to be told. But I think that DC can always be a target, especially if you have your leaders there. I mean, think about it. If Congress has been in session because of the Speaker of the House thinks that you have Congress there. I don't know where Biden is, but the president, vice president could be there. If they hit it right, you could have a lot of leaders in that same spot. And yeah, I mean, I think DC could always be a target. So we're going through the comments here. Yeah, I'm sorry, Melanie. I think that most places here in America would be pretty safe if they're okay. Yeah, I think let's talk about this. I think most places here in America would be pretty safe. There are plenty of extremists out there and or ignorant individuals who are too trigger happy these days, just looking for an excuse. Yeah, so we just talked about that a second ago. And that's not doesn't let's just be again as we're being very clear here on a couple things, and I'll repeat this too. This whole situation is not an excuse to be Islamophobic, and you're definitely not being that way, Stephanie. But I think it plays into what you're saying. This is definitely not an excuse to be Islamophobic, but I think that there are people who could look at that as an excuse to be Islamophobic, or there are people that could look at it as an excuse to do something nefarious based on the fact that they could blame this possible event. That I think is definitely a possibility, and frankly, I think that's probably the larger of the possibilities. Have they indicated any hotspot locations? No, not yet. But I'll tell you what. I will be live again later this evening. And I'll be more on TikTok as well later this evening. And I will do some more research between now and then and see kind of what they're saying and see where it's at. Because by then, it's in about 15 minutes. It'll be the 13th in that part of the world in Palestine. In Australia, it's already past the 13th. They're probably like almost on the 14th over there. I never know what time it is in Australia. So. If it would be Hamas sympathizers, mostly lone wolves if something did happen. I'm not sure I understand the question, but I'm going to try to ask here. And sorry, so if you have people who are sympathizers or part of terrorist organizations, cells within the U.S., then they're all going to be in cells with each other. They're going to know who they are. So it wouldn't necessarily be a lone wolf. Now, a lone supporter, yeah, very possibly that could be acting as a lone wolf. We're not gonna talk. That's not a correct comment. I'm a flight attendant and fly the route regularly to Birmingham Airport that's where my home is. I just want to say on every flight, tons of illegals have chosen to fly Birmingham. Okay, this is not an excuse, guys, for us to bring. I'm just gonna call it bring racism into this. That's what this is. You don't know if they're illegal or not, unless you're checking their green card. You don't know, and you don't know where they're from. You don't know if they're, you know what I'm saying? I have a feeling there's probably not a lot of Syrian refugees on your flight, and you don't know who's here legally and who's not. We can't make those assumptions. As Daniel says, I have everyone stays vigilant, keep your head on a swivel. I mean, I'm going to put that up there. I think he's right. And I think that's a good for always. Good advice for just always. Be aware of your surroundings. I think they would mainly focus on state. So Maxi, so this is YouTube. So what's great about this is you can actually, if you want to go back and get a recap, because we're just moving forward in the timeline here, you can actually rewind it, and while I'm still live, you can catch up and you can kind of go back and take a look and see. That's kind of the great thing about YouTube. So YouTube doesn't really allow as much for repeating because of that reason. Because when some people are watching it, they don't want to end up hearing the same thing over and over. So, but yeah, you're welcome to definitely scroll backwards. Do you think they would mainly focus on states that have stronger 2A amendment laws? I don't think so, Daniel. I think that's a very interesting question that you pose. Definitely not a bad question. My personal opinion, without really, kind of pulling this personal opinion completely out of my ass. I don't know. I don't think that a country with 2A laws are going to, or a state that's got greater 2A laws is going to be, an easier target than a state that doesn't have, harsher gun laws. Because I think that when you think about the attacks that we typically have by terrorist organizations that claim to do their acts in the name of Islam, it's not typically with a firearm because two reasons. One is for them to die during that attack would be a great honor for them. And under their beliefs, they would go straight to heaven because they sacrificed their lives for the cause, for Islam. That's what these people believe. So typically it becomes a suicide bomber type situation, in which case, gun or no gun, you're not going to make a difference on it. That's kind of how I think I would answer that. I want to put up what Max said. So Max here is, you know what? Max has been following me for a long time on TikTok and on here, and I consider Max a really good friend. I love Max. So shout out to him real quick. Max is in Australia, and you can see what he put here. In Australia the other night, there were protests where people were chanting, "Gas the Jews." For those of y'all who don't know, I am 50% Jewish on my dad's side. We had family killed. I think a great uncle and his entire family were killed in the Holocaust in Auschwitz. Uh, hate and bigotry doesn't work well with me, but this is the type of stuff that you're up against. Anybody who would do things like that are a problem. Why couldn't we always get along and we could live a nice, peaceful life? I agree. Okay, so it is going back to my comment earlier about Australia. Max chimed in. It is currently right now. It has been about 3 minutes since he said this. 5 minutes. So it is the morning of the 13th in Australia currently. For those of you who want to know, at 8:48 in the morning. So let's talk about this. What is the point of this fear creation? It's not fear creation. Here's the thing. A lot of people like to stick their head in the sand and pretend that things aren't happening because it scares them. And it's okay, Gorgor. It's okay to be scared. It's okay to not know about the unknown. There's a difference between fear creation and awareness. The media is, this person, Mashal, who is a leader, is a leader of Hamas, came out and said he calls for a day of jihad. There's no questioning that. Nobody's questioning that. That's what he said. A lot of news outlets are reporting it. Dozens, if not hundreds, are reporting it. You can do a simple Google search before you make comments like this. What we're talking about here is we hope nothing happens. We hope that it's all talk and tomorrow's just like any other day. But what's the harm? What's the harm in being vigilant? What's the harm in being aware of your surroundings more than usual on tomorrow versus other days? There's nothing wrong with that. Peyton asks, what were the warnings given on tech? I don't remember specifically because we're going back 20 years ago and I wasn't prepared to talk about 9/11 today. So I have to go back and double check. But I remember that in the year or so, a couple years before, they kept warning of a big attack. The Taliban did. I don't remember what specifically it was. I'd have to go back and look. Somebody said this. I think that it would be towards huge Jewish populations. I agree. I think the Jewish populations, if you're near synagogues, live in areas like, New York, Miami with heavy Jewish populations, you could be in a more likelihood of things happening. Okay, so here's what we have because Gorgor is saying stuff again, I'm going to bring this out because this is what you have here is you have a Hamas supporter who is trying to share his views. So let's let him share his views. Creating this image that Hamas wants to attack U.S. soil is so bizarre and just shows how clueless you're. Hamas has no interest of conducting attacks in the U.S. Gorgor. Hamas already said that when we sent our largest warship over in support of Israel, and the fact that we support Israel, that it would not go unnoticed. They have said that. They've already said that there would be retaliation. So if you want to sit there and be a Hamas supporter, that is totally your business. But the only one spreading misinformation here and being clueless is you. Because people would have thought, why would the Taliban want to be here? Hello, Aaron. I recognize you, Aaron, because I know your last name. Okay, so now we're at the bottom of the questions. Yes, his name was Inquisitor, and he was okay. We're talking. Well, Savannah. That's a conversation for a different day. So what other questions do we have, y'all? I've got about 8 minutes left before I got to go pick up my own child, and I will be back later this evening. But I'm happy to answer questions for the additional 8 minutes that we're here. For those of y'all who are on TikTok watching, thank y'all for watching, and definitely follow and things like that, because we will be keeping updating. Currently, I am on YouTube mainly because I got all this new stuff. I can turn off this in a second and show y'all this whole new setup that I really wanted to use for YouTube, and I've not done anything like this. Anyway, so if you want to watch there, you can. I'm able to show stuff up, but I'll be back live on TikTok and YouTube later this evening as well. And when I come back on YouTube, I'll have the TikTok right in front of me so I can talk to both of y'all. So Stephanie, the great thing about YouTube is that you're able to rewind, but what we are talking about essentially in a nutshell is the potential day of jihad tomorrow that has been, thank you, Aaron, I appreciate that, that has been called on by leaders of Hamas. Again, this is not a scare tactic. This is not, trying to fear monger. It's none of that. If I was fear mongering and there wasn't any I didn't believe there was any validity to it, I would let my daughter go to school tomorrow as normal. I would be going downtown to Nashville tonight to go see a play that we really wanted to see. It's just, I hope that I'm wrong. I hope nothing happens. I hope it's a normal night, but to me, it's just not worth it. So I'm sitting home tonight and I'll come talk to you fine people. So it's not fear mongering. It's just telling you to be aware and vigilant of your situations. It's a shame social media gives us the needed information and need for vigilance. I live less than an hour from both DC and Richmond, and honestly, I've heard nothing about this from our local news. Lori, I think this is I'm going to put your comment up here. I think one of the things that has stuck out with me for the last year, as doing social media creation on TikTok specifically, and I'll share a quick story with y'all, is the morning that the Queen died. My wife wakes up and she says, "Oh my gosh, something's happening. The Queen is going to die today." She wakes me up. It's very early because it's much later over in the UK. And so I get up and I get dressed. I get on social media because this is a big deal. It's a big deal. She's been queen since 1952. And I get online. I got it streaming live on this giant screen that's over here. And I remember somebody coming in and said, "Man," and this is after she had passed, "I can't believe I'm learning about the Queen dying on social media." Which is why I'll say this. When it comes to this type of stuff, I do my best to do my due diligence and do my research and give you guys factual information. I am not always correct in my information. Sometimes I get things wrong. I am human. I go off the information that is out there. But when that happens, I have no problem admitting that I'm wrong and correcting myself, because it's important to give you guys the proper information. But that I take that responsibility, especially since that comment, very, very seriously. Okay, so Savannah said this. "I'm sorry, but I want to make it aware that it was a thing. I want to make it aware of this thing, but is it confirmed that Hamas terrorists will publish videos of executions on social media?" I know that that's been said, and it's been confirmed that it's been said. Now, will it actually happen? I don't know. But I know that you can't unsee that stuff. And I would hope, though, because when you're talking about like TikTok and YouTube and Instagram and X, they have pretty good content moderation. I mean, I know that there's been some graphic stuff that have gotten through, and I know that somebody in this live, Savannah, actually, you're the one that said it, that somebody took their own life on a live after being called something. And you can't necessarily capture that right away. So is it possible they could do some live streams and stuff and it be there before, and they do things before? Yeah, absolutely. I don't know how they would do that. I don't know how it would work. I don't know how they get it out there, but potentially, yeah, it's possible that they could still do it. Is this war considered religious or controller power? I would say that it's both. I mean, they are representative of, they're calling on jihad, which is, day of jihad, which is a thing that they associate with the Nation of Islam, so Muslim. There's been a large conflict between the Jewish people of Israel and the, I don't say the Islamic people, but the Islamic extremist groups like Hamas, Al Qaeda, ISIS, etc., that Taliban, that have issues. And I think that's really what you're dealing with. Again, I can't stress enough that the views of of groups like Hamas, like Al Qaeda, like the Taliban, like ISIS, those don't represent the views of the countries. They represent the views of these extremist groups. So, Will I be able to see the play another time? Yes, we will be able to see it another time. It's going to be here for 4 weeks. So yes. It scares the shit out of me because I'm a cashier. Well, I don't think, Allison, I don't think it would be a firearm situation. I think it would be I think it would be a bomb situation. Thank you so much for all the great info. Oh, thank you so much. I actually owe you guys a Titan sub update. There is one out there. Different opinion equals Hamas supporter. I didn't know a group called the Taliban ever conducted attacks on the U.S. To be frank, truth is Hamas won't achieve anything by attacking U.S. soil, no political gain or anything. 9/11. That's why we went and fought the Taliban. It was after 9/11. Taliban and Al Qaeda. And it's not that you have a different opinion making you a Hamas supporter. It's what appears to be in your opinions supporting of Hamas, and you're not saying what you're saying as opinions. You're saying what you're saying as fact. That's how you're presenting it. So, and you don't have to have political gain. You can have, again, this is not a political organization. This is a terrorist organization. Their gain is by committing terror. That's what their gain is. That's what that's what they exist to do, is to create terror. New York City is taking it serious, calling I want to, because I think that New York is a really great way to look at everything. New York handles stuff usually pretty well. New York is taking it serious, calling every badge to the precinct, taking all precautions in a city of that magnitude isn't a joke, 100%. And they don't do things lightly. They would have good intel. And you would imagine that your major cities, your players like New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, Miami, Atlanta, Dallas, all of those cities would probably have some pretty good intel. With the governors and the leadership, as to what they're hearing, what they're going on. So for kind of a random personalist question, I work at my local VA in a large city. Do you think I should avoid work tomorrow? Emily, that's really hard for me to say. I mean, it is Friday. You could always have a 3-day weekend. I don't know if a VA would be where they would hit, because typically when you're dealing with a VA, you're not dealing with like active military veterans. You're typically dealing with people who, if they're at a VA, they could be sick, but you could be dealing with disabled veterans. I don't think they're people that they're going to be overly concerned about. But yeah, as somebody said, you just have to use your best judgment there. Yeah, I know the TikTok live looks kind of funky today. Do I think I'll go on a second here, but somebody asked, do I think that the emergency alert last week has anything to do with this? No, I don't. And the next time I can maybe try to remember to bring it in. No, the emergency broadcasting system has been around forever. I think it was created initially. It wasn't called the emergency broadcasting system in the 60s. Let me see if I can find something here. I'll show you something very interesting if I can find it. Hold on, give me a second, guys. Hold on a second. This will be very interesting. Okay, so it was called CONELRAD. In 1951, it was Control of Electromagnetic Radiation, which is what they call Key Station System, or CONELRAD, initiated a procedure on participating stations. You had to tune to 6:40 a.m. or 12:40 a.m., which was designed to warn citizens. And then it became the emergency broadcasting system in 1963. So let me show you something really kind of interesting here. Find it here. I think you'll find this interesting. I think this will be a lighter note to. I think I can use this one. I can use this picture. Okay. I'll show you something really cool. Then we'll call it for the evening, or till later this evening. But let me share this with y'all. Okay. So if you can see this radio that I have here, this is a radio from late 50s, early 60s, mid to late 50s, early 60s. You see this? Let me see if I can maybe go bigger. If you see this triangle here and this triangle here, those were the two stations that we were just talking about. Okay. those were 640 and 1240. So those were on radios in the 50s and 60s, part of the emergency alert system that became emergency broadcast. My point to all this, I just think that's a very interesting fact. So that's something interesting to know that's been around forever. And I just think the emergency broadcasting system is the emergency broadcasting system. I have a lot of respect for you, but it looks like you don't know much about this political war. By the way, any of the U.S. authorities say there's a threat of attacks. I haven't looked to see what the U.S. You know what, Gorgor? I've not seen what the U.S. Has said. I'm just looking at what's being pushed out by the media based on what Hamas said. And by the way, Hamas is not a political war. Hamas is a terrorist group. It would be a political war if it was a country that actually had land and power. These people don't. They are terrorists. I have a very big understanding of that. They don't. It's not a you. It's not political to bomb a music festival, killing children. That's not political. Kidnapping children, raping women, that's not political. That's terrorist. And on that note, guys, I need to go pick up my own daughter. So I will let it go for the evening. I appreciate y'all watching. Anybody who came in late, you can, with YouTube, you can definitely rewind. With TikTok, I'll be back later as well. So make sure to like and follow here. If you want to make sure you get alerted, make sure to hit the follow button or subscribe, whatever YouTube does. And I will see you guys here in the next few hours, and I will have more information. And Gorgor, I like, even though it's getting a little heated, I like what you're bringing. I think it opens up for interesting discussions, and please feel free to come back. You are absolutely welcome, because you are handling your situation and your opinions and your views with respect, and I appreciate that. So with that said, you guys have a great rest of the evening, and I will see y'all a little bit later tonight. Thanks for watching.